Welcome to Release Readiness Live. I'm Christy Moscoso, your Release Readiness champion. We are broadcasting from our home studios all of this week to share some new features in the Winter 21 release. After our product team shares the highlights, we'll spend some time taking questions on air. We will be monitoring both the Release Readiness Trailblazer community and Twitter, so post your questions as soon as you think of them with the hashtag Salesforce Live. I recommend posting your longer, more detailed questions in the community where the conversation can continue after this webcast. If we don't get to your questions on air, we'll be sure to follow up with you within a few days. All of our webcasts will be available on the Salesforce Live website for later viewing. And since we may be covering roadmap, we will be making some forward-looking statements, so please make your purchasing decisions based on currently available functionality. Now let's get started with Work.com and meet our product managers.
Thank you, Christina. Hi, I'm Xander Mittman. I'm the product manager for the Work.com Command Center. The Command Center is your 360-degree view of your return to work readiness. Today, I'll show you how you can use the Command Center to make informed safety decisions and especially to take action to reopen safely.
Every CEO, CIO, CHRO, facilities, and operations leader that we speak with shares that reopening in this new normal brought on by COVID-19 has been and will continue to be a serious challenge. We built Work.com because, as this pandemic was unfolding, we quickly heard from our customers that they were struggling to find good solutions that would enable them to reopen their workplaces safely, whether they're talking about corporate headquarters, a clothing store, a university, an elementary school, you name it. They wanted to get back to some semblance of normalcy as quickly as possible. We know that reopening and figure out how to keep operating safely will be a journey, and Work.com can be your guide. Work.com is your source for expert advice, content, and technology to help you reopen your workplace. With Work.com, we bring you expert advice and trusted data to help you reopen your communities and businesses safely. We built new products, including a command center, contact tracing, and apps for employee wellness and workforce staffing so you can better guide reentry to your workplace. Advisory services and best practices from experts help you reimagine your organization for the new world. Content kits from My Trailhead will help you retrain employees on new policies and reskill them for new roles in an evolving organization. And emergency response management apps will help you respond to any future crisis. I'm the product manager for the Command Center, and I'm excited to share some of the latest things we've been working on with you. The Command Center is your single pane of glass for managing the complexities associated with opening back up your workplace and getting people back to work and school in the COVID-19 environment. It's the cockpit for operations executives, HR leaders, and facilities managers to drive their organization through this crisis, resuming business and operations, and, I cannot stress this enough, emerging stronger on the other side. As painful as it may be in the moment, every crisis presents opportunities, and this is no exception. The Command Center makes it easy for teams to have a single source of truth for managing returning employees to the workplace and making data-driven decisions based on real-time, tailored public health data, as well as private data about their company, employees, and other constituents like students. They can monitor each person's wellness and training progress, as well as track facilities' preparedness and shift scheduling. Based on this information, they can act quickly to trigger the workflows and actions needed in order to resume business operations and reopen locations. And finally, from the Command Center, you can integrate data from external systems via Mulesoft, access Tableau data visualizations, as well as partner apps and solutions. Most importantly, Work.com is built on the Salesforce platform. So as your needs change and grow, I can almost guarantee you that there is a trailblazer who has been in your shoes and figured out some solution, whether it's by taking advantage of features and functionalities provided by us at Salesforce, one of our thousands of fantastic partners or system integrators, or if you can't find quite the right tool for your job, you can quickly and easily spin up a homegrown solution on the powerful yet approachable Salesforce platform. Let me set up my next slide with a few photos. As I've been wandering around in this weird new world over the last few months, I've been taking pictures so the future me can remember what this is like. Signs like this are everywhere, right? It makes me think about all the unseen people who clearly put a lot of thought and time into making my experience as a customer better. And you know what? It's working. I'm not holed up in my room. Life is moving on. But I still think about all the millions of to-do items that operations leaders must manage to plan, execute, and maintain a seemingly simple exercise like this. Is it emails, shared documents, post-it notes? I'm sure if we could magically see all those processes, or if we could calculate the actual minutes spent per correctly installed sign, we would find plenty of room for improvement. Which leads me to Flows. This is new since my teammate Marty Burris shared what was available in version 1 back in June, Release Readiness Live, and I hope you've had a chance to check it out. Flow Builder is your low-code tool to bring structured, flexible, and usable actions to life for your end users. With Flow, you can design and create processes related to your reopening efforts and so much more. And as you get a feel for where things can still be improved, it's simple to update these flows with clicks, not code. We know there's a lot of Flow Nation love out there, and we bring it right to the forefront in the Command Center's operations feed. This flow illustrates how you could operationalize putting signs up to give your customers, students, and so on important information that helps keep everyone safe. You'll see this in action in the demo in just a few minutes, but it's worth seeing how simple it can be for an admin like you to create a powerful, streamlined process that makes it easy for your teammates to know what to do next, and then do it. This goes to show that the Command Center is not a dashboard. It's built for action. Let's zoom in on how we've made it easy to integrate a flow into a task in the operations feed. Let's start on the bottom left. This is a screenshot of the task record page. The Work.com Command Center product extends the task object with a few custom fields. All you need to do is set action type to flow and specify the flow in the action API name. Once that's done, the user will see a Take Action button instead of View Task. That's it. If it's a screen flow, we even take care of displaying it on that modal dialog for you. I continue to be amazed by what our customers and partners have done with flows, so let your imagination run wild, and please keep the feedback coming about how we can make the Command Center even better. Shifting gears a little bit, I watched Yaron Jor's segment of Release Readiness Live from June, so definitely take a look at that if you're just starting with Work.com Shift Management. But while I have your attention, I wanted to share some of the latest updates there. All our latest shift management features are based directly on customer feedback and the trends as companies are starting to reopen their offices. So thank you. With a renewed employee experience, it's now more scalable, flexible, and powerful. Employees can continue to edit their availability and accept or reject shifts. Plus, we've empowered the facility manager to notify employees instead of the planner persona. Self-scheduling by the employee has been a huge request. We're now allowing companies to reopen and give the employee full power to select when they want to come into the office and where they want to sit. We won't be fielding shift management topics during Q&A today, since there is a lot of depth there, but please find us in the Trailblazer community. Before I jump into the Command Center demo, I want to zoom way out. This is an urgent versus important matrix, which is a productivity hack attributed to Dwight D. Eisenhower, a general in World War II who then went on to become the President of the United States. The bottom right is not urgent and not important. Obvious enough, don't spend your precious time on these things. The bottom left is urgent but not important. It's not particularly intuitive, but he would delegate or even delay these things, figuring they would just go away. And they often do, as I'm sure we can all relate. Now let's get to the important stuff. This is where you should be spending most of your time. Urgent and important. These are crises, plain and simple. They happen to us whether we want them or not. And sometimes crises can be exciting and even spur us to look at the world differently. But they aren't generally fun. This can be a nice place to visit, but most people don't want to live there. Clearly, this is where Work.com fits in. And finally, the beachfront property. Important, but not urgent. This is where successful people build their careers, and you could even say their lives. This is where you want to live. And that's the beauty of the Salesforce platform. Let's say you're a brand new Salesforce customer who took the plunge because of the COVID-19 crisis. It was probably a bit of a learning curve, right? But now that you're here, you're in the club. You have the knowledge and experience about what's possible, what's easy, and what works. Now it's a much smaller lift to experiment with what else is out there in the Salesforce Ohana. It's an incredibly rich ecosystem of products, tools, solutions, and partners to enable that single source of truth for whatever you're struggling with. I think that quote on the right from one of our most visible customers, the University of Kentucky, is right on the mark. Their president calls Salesforce their springboard to be ready for whatever is coming next. and none of us can truly know what that is. To close with another Eisenhower quote, plans are useless, planning is indispensable. Okay, enough waxing poetic, let's get to the demo. To make this demo a little more relatable, I'm going to tell it in the first-person point of view. In this demo, we're looking at the app that my company, MCH Industries, created for internal operations, and in particular how the Command Center helps our organization reopen and operate safely. MCH does light manufacturing of wholesale goods with headquarters in Pennsylvania and various manufacturing plants and distribution centers around the United States and Mexico. Like most companies, we've had to navigate the challenging waters of COVID-19, which is especially important to us because the majority of our employees need to physically be on site to work. A few months ago, we had to completely shut down our facility in El Paso, Texas. Yesterday, we made the long-awaited decision to proceed with opening it at reduced capacity, which means we can get back to work, and I can do everything I need to with the Command Center. The Command Center is my one-stop shop for an overview of MCH's reopening efforts. It helps me answer the question, what's the situation right now? Before I get too far, this is not a Salesforce dashboard. It's for an at-a-glance view, and especially for taking action to get my company back on track. It's not built for slicing and dicing data. Of course, Salesforce has tools for that like list views, reports, true dashboards, Einstein Analytics, Tableau, and so on. Let me show you what I mean with a quick peek into Lightning App Builder. This is simply a Lightning homepage. The power comes from the out-of-the-box components included with the Command Center, each one providing an overview of a key aspect of our reopening. I'm going to start at the top because this global filter component is what makes the Command Center so unique. This component lets the end user, like an operations leader or facilities manager, scope the Command Center to a particular building. I'll use that term building a few times, so in your head, picture a physical location with a street address. It could be an office building, a manufacturing plant, a distribution center, a farm, a skyscraper, and so on. While Work.com is not only for figuring out COVID-19, it's structured around locations because managing physical locations, or more specifically, how to manage putting people in them, is one of the hardest things that we're all figuring out. And the Salesforce platform is the right tool for the job. The other components on this page can listen for an event with the selected location via Lightning message service, and then respond accordingly. For example, the workplace location status component updates to show child locations of the selected building. I'll demo that in just a minute. In the component palette here, you can see the standard components you're familiar with. You could add any of these to the page, but we decided to keep it simple, especially because we thought it was a more intuitive user experience to stick mostly with components that consistently respond to that location filter. Under Custom Components, you can see those that are included in the Command Center package, and you can also see some of which are included with Work.com Shift Management, Contact Tracing, and My Trailhead products, among others. And of course, there is a rich ecosystem of partner solutions that have already sprung up around Work.com. I love checking out the Work.com partner site to see what's new that might be a good fit for MCH. When I want to try one out, it's as simple as dragging it onto the page. For MCH's own Salesforce developers, these have definitely sparked some ideas for a custom component we want to design and build ourselves, so we checked out the developer documentation, which describes how this works via Lightning Message Service. Okay, let's get back to business. Here at the top left is the operations feed, which contains tasks we use to help manage our reopening journey. As I said, the Command Center is about taking action, so I put that in the most prominent position. That first task to initiate reduced capacity is brand new as of this morning. We'll get back to that in a minute. To the right of that, the location workplace status component shows that we still have 2 facilities which are hard closed, meaning we decided that nobody can work there, and as I mentioned, El Paso is one of them. I can also view it as a map. I'm focused on our Southwest operations, so I zoom in for a closer look. Right next to that are the wellness status and wellness status by location components, which show the wellness status of all our employees. You'll hear much more about the wellness aspects in the next demo. Here I can see the latest on our contact tracing efforts to ensure we keep our case rates declining. And if we keep scrolling, we see the US and global COVID-19 trackers powered by Tableau, which came with Command Center out of the box. It's handy to know I can add different Tableau dashboards with just a couple clicks, but for now, these are exactly what I and my team members, who all read different news sources, need to be sure we're making data-driven, safety-conscious decisions. This is curated at official data by country, and for the US, we also have it at the state level. I'll click on Texas for a last-minute check to confirm case rates are still headed in the right direction. Looks good. And I'll take a look at Mexico for good measure. It looks good too. And together, all of this is giving us at MCH a macro-level perspective on our reopening efforts. And as our needs change, it's as simple as adding and removing components from the page to make sure we stay focused and productive. Let's jump back to the filter at the top. The filter lets me drill down into any of our locations. So to show you what I mean, I'll scope Command Center to the El Paso plant, which we're starting to reopen today. You can see that many of the components on this page have scoped themselves to only the El Paso location. I'm seeing only tasks for El Paso. The location workplace status now shows the different areas within that facility. And the wellness status component shows me that at least 80% of my colleagues there are ready to get back to work. So let's jump on that first task and make it happen. The standard task object has been extended for the Command Center with action types like employee wellness alerts, location actions, and more. Some of these are simply tasks, which by themselves are incredibly helpful to keep MCH organized. We rely on the Salesforce platform as our single source of truth. This has driven accountability and transparency throughout the company, so we can all work together to move forward. But we wanted to automate some of our standardized processes to save time and improve quality. With a little upfront work, we've learned we can do more with less. The task I'm about to demonstrate is powered by Salesforce Flows. Let's watch it in action, and then I'll show you how we built it. The Take Action button on this Initiate Reduced Capacity task calls a flow which our central Salesforce admin has built out to help me, as the facilities manager for El Paso, to understand and be compliant with MCH's best practice reopening procedures. This screen lets me select which items are applicable to my distribution center. We do have elevators in the business office, so I'll check all three. With those simple steps, I now have 3 tasks for each of those items which have been automatically assigned to me with appropriate due dates. Now I just need to complete those tasks, and I can even add photos of all the signs so everyone can see it's all in order. Back in business, or at least this is 3 steps in the right direction. Let's take a deeper look at Flow Builder to see how that's done. First, let's look at the task. This rich experience is primarily metadata driven. Simply populate the fields with the appropriate flow name. Let's look at the flow MCH's admin has configured here. We build these interactions and processes using Salesforce's low-code Flow Builder. Flow Builder means we have an incredibly powerful tool that we can use to construct processes related to our reopening efforts and so much more. And as we've learned what works, what doesn't, and where we want to improve, it's simple to automate flows with clicks, not code. Here you can see it's just a few screens with the logic specified in these assignment screens. And this is how the Salesforce Command Center helps MCH reopen safely by having a single source of truth of our reopening efforts, complete with processes to help us reopen and grow safely.
With that, as you saw, wellness is a critical part of reopening safely. Here's Brandolin to tell you much more about wellness.
Thanks, Xander. I'm Brandolin Barnett, Product Manager for Work.com Wellness, working to help companies with their wellness as part of Work.com reopening and the broader employee experience beyond COVID. I've been with Salesforce for 2 years and began my time on Philanthropy Cloud, making it easier than ever to help others. So now I'm excited to share what we've made available in our Work.com release to help people in a new way, making it easier for them to get back to work safely and feel well and safe in schools and in the workplace. On the Command Center Home, there are 2 components designed to provide insights into the health and wellness of your employees to assist with reopening decisions. These are the Wellness Status and Status by Location components. With our latest release, we've built survey scheduling and automation into the wellness workflow out of the box. This new functionality can greatly simplify the process of sending surveys and gathering data to populate these components and their various visualizations and power your reopening decisions. You can access this functionality in 2 ways, either by sending and scheduling surveys to go to specific locations or individuals. Today, I'll highlight scheduling surveys for individuals, but the process is the same for both. Within the Workplace Status component, click the drop-down and select View All Individuals. You will by default land on recent employees or individuals. Select All Individuals to view all the individuals available within your organization for surveying. With the new survey scheduling functionality, you can automate any of the surveys. In this instance, you might decide to send the continuing wellness survey daily to a group of employees who have attested that they are available to work. Select an individual employee or a group of employees with the relevant status and click Send Survey. You can then quickly schedule the daily survey for these users. You can still see a preview of the survey through the dropdown if needed. Here we'll schedule a daily survey and schedule it to begin on October 1st and end on December 31st. Finally, we'll name this Continuing Wellness Daily Survey so that we can easily find and edit the survey at a later time. And we'll go ahead and schedule. You can manage any scheduled surveys through the Command Center. Click the Command Center application view and search for Survey Schedules. This will bring you to a view of scheduled surveys. You can see the survey name, survey type, frequency, and other details simply by clicking on the survey. You can also edit, delete, or change the owner of these survey schedules. Editing a survey allows you to alter the time, date, and frequency of surveys you have scheduled. You can also edit the list of survey recipients. And that's it. It's our hope that simplifying the process for gathering reopening related data will empower even more effective reopening strategies. I hope these features simplify the process of getting back to work. And now back to Christina for Q&A.
That was great. I did want to remind everyone that you can go ahead and post your questions on the community. The faster you post them there, the more likely we are to get to them on air today. But no worries if you don't hear it on air today, we could always follow up with you on the community. Xander, this first question is going to go out to you. How do you shift management and contact tracing fit in? How do shift management and contact tracing fit in?
Sure, it's a great question, great question, Christy. Yeah, we've seen a lot of great response to our shift management and contact tracing solutions. So essentially there are 4 products, at least, that under the work.com umbrella produced by Salesforce. So the Command Center product, which is released as a package, includes the Command Center and Wellness, which we just saw in our presentation, and which we'll talk more about today. And where customers are spending a lot of time is with the shift management product. And that is a special work.com shift management product that is essentially similar to field service lightning shift management, but very custom built to bringing employees back into workplaces. So it is a separate product from FSL shift management, again, specific for work.com. And that is its own product that can be added onto the Command Center package. But it does require a Command Center package so that you have the employee object and things like that. And then contact tracing is very useful for customers who want to make sure that their workers are staying safe. And as they are bringing workers back into the office and employees are working with each other in meeting rooms and things like that, if somebody were to test positive for COVID or whatever other thing you would want to trace with contact tracing, that then you can use contact tracing to make sure you're notifying other people who may have been exposed, and then contain the risk and keep your workplace operating healthy, keep your employees safe. So those are 4 different products. The 4th one being My Trailhead, and that extends My Trailhead by adding badges by location, so that you can see on Command Center Home which employees have taken certain trailheads, and then you can make sure that their people are trained on what your procedures and policies are before coming into the office. So a customer could choose to have all 4 products: Command Center, which includes Wellness and Shift Management and Contact Tracing and My Trailhead for work.com, but you don't have to have all 4 to get the value out of it.
That makes a lot of sense. And that's one of my favorite things about it, just the a la carte nature of it, for sure. This next question, Brandolyn, is for you. Can wellness be used to assess COVID status of non-employees?
Yeah, so that's a question that we got frequently once we took the product to market to help customers with reopening. And we got it particularly from universities like the University of Kentucky. And so we did work in a previous release just over the past couple of months to really add a custom role field to the employee object, so that now within work.com, you can go into the employee, go into your settings and create different roles within your organization. So those roles could be students, they could be customers, they could be segments of your employees, however you really want to structure the way you want that data to come back. And you can then send out that survey specifically to those roles. So you could survey, whether it's our continuing wellness survey or any of the other surveys you want to send out through the Command Center. And again, all on top of the scheduling functionality that we've built and just displayed. You can do that for any of those roles or segments of a population of individuals you want to survey and learn how they're doing and whether they're experiencing any of the symptoms of COVID-19.
Yeah. So amazing. This next question, also for you, Brandolyn, actually. How many pre-built surveys are there out of the box?
Yes, so we have 2 pre-built surveys out of the box. Both were developed in concert with the CDC as well as our partners in Health Cloud. And they are the Continuing Wellness Survey as well as the Return to Work Readiness Survey, or Return Readiness Survey. The Return Readiness Survey is really a tool that we've built that utilizes a sort of set of questions, again, developed in concert with experts to really provide view that can be relied upon to assess symptoms of COVID-19. So at the highest level, are you experiencing any symptoms? And if so, the survey essentially provides a status within the Command Center, letting employers know, as well as employees through the survey process, that they're not perhaps quite ready to return to normal and return to the offices, depending on when those offices might reopen. The second survey is a continuing wellness survey. It's designed to be mobilized when an employee has gone back into the office and the company wants to do, or the organization, whether that's a university or any other institution that's utilizing work.com Command Center, wants to on a regular sort of ongoing basis, assess those same symptoms as the person continues to come into the office on a day-to-day basis. So we have big vision for both of those. In particular, there's a desire that we've heard from customers, and we always want to hear more, to tie that continuing wellness survey into shift management and other capabilities of the platform. And so those are on our roadmap. But for now, we think they're pretty powerful tools that we've built, again, not just on our own. These are really driven by health experts and health expertise, both internal and external to Salesforce, to make sure that they're asking the right questions in accordance with CDC's guidelines to get the right kind of data that companies can need to power their reopening.
I love how thorough that was. And we have a good question that came in here. You mentioned a recent release. Does work.com have a different schedule to the normal Salesforce release?
Yeah, I'll take this one really quick, and then Xander, if you want to chime in as well. But we are doing monthly releases, and we're doing that because of the demand, the urgency of response to COVID-19. And so every month we'll have a new set of functionality that's going out. It's a smaller set of functionality than you might be used to with other releases on the Salesforce platform, but it's in response to that urgent need for new functionality to continue to get things out the door that respond to this universe of challenges that's growing by the day and growing in complexity by the day. And I don't know, Xander, if you wanted to chime in as well.
Yeah, I mean, the other great thing about that is, so we are releasing as a managed package on the App Exchange. And I mean, I worked at 8 or 9 startups, depending how you count, before I joined Salesforce. And one thing that I had to adapt to in my previous role as the product manager for Lightning Console on the core platform is, you know, there's really an 8-month lead time between when we are doing our planning for a release and when it's actually in a customer's hands. But here, because we are a managed package and we're not subject to a lot of the constraints of releasing on core, we can be a lot more agile. So if a customer or somebody who's interested in this kind of solution were to contact me or Brandolin tomorrow, we could, in theory, have have a working feature in your hands in, call it, 2 months, because we are being much more agile and quicker turnaround time. So take advantage of that, and definitely reach out to us and other people, either directly or the Trailblazer community, what have you, because we can be very responsive. Because especially in the situation today, things are changing very, very quickly, and we can really take advantage of that in the way that we're releasing.
Yeah, and we don't foresee that changing necessarily in the very near future, especially in light of, I mean, we're all seeing the headlines. This product, if there's a COVID resurgence, could become even more important in the coming months. So that agility is really key to how we want to drive the platform forward.
Yeah, that makes sense. Unprecedented times, for sure.
For sure.
This next question, can you use the various apps a la carte, or do they come as a package? And I know you already kind of touched on that, but just to make sure we're very clear on that.
Yes and no. So Command Center, like, you can use the Command Center Home and Wellness and surveying and making sure you have a good understanding of your employees' availability to work. If you want to use shift management, you will need to purchase Command Center and then add work.com shift management on top of that. If you just want contact tracing, you could get that all by itself without purchasing Command Center or shift management.
And I would add, if you simply wanted to survey your employees, let's say you had your own set of questions that you wanted to ask, or you're trying to assess something else with regards to wellness and well-being or any other topic, Salesforce surveys is what is the foundation for wellness within the Command Center. So that product is always available for any of your surveying or data gathering needs.
I mean, just internally, I can think of so many surveys that we've gotten as we have iterated on our approach. So
actually, maybe that's a good segue into the trial experience as well. So we have a whole team that's dedicated just to making sure customers can understand the value of this quickly and get live and actually solving your problems as fast as possible and have your shortest time to value possible. So they've done some incredible work in the last couple of releases around creating turnkey solutions in the product to, for example, applying the permission set, so you don't have to follow the 20 steps in our installation guide. You can just click a button and it does that for you. So that really shortens it. And another great work that they're doing is creating a trial experience. So if you contact your account executive and ask for a work.com trial, you can get 30 days to get hands-on with these solutions that we were showing, as well as contact tracing and shift management. So you can see all these products in their completion and actually try them out, test them with users and things like that. And then if you decide to purchase, that automatically becomes your production org. So that will also save you a lot of time. You can try it without any commitment, and then if you find that it would create value for you, then you're already set up on your implementation.
That's awesome. To kind of continue on this setup, what does it take to get this set up? So for example, contact tracing.
Sure. Well, so one thing is that, I mean, a lot of it is also about your system of record, system of engagement, and that will change, from company to company, institution to institution, what your particular situation looks like. So make sure you have a, think through your whole implementation plan. But we, as part of the initial work.com release, we released a Mulesoft Accelerator that could take your employee data from Workday, for example, if that's your system of record, and automatically replicate that and keep that in sync with Salesforce. So Workday can still say your system of record, but for your day-to-day operational needs and using the fields that only exist in the Salesforce employee data model, that can all happen in Salesforce. So we try to make those as easy as possible. And we have released a great guide called the Work.com Learning Map, I believe it's called, and that includes expected levels of effort for contact tracing, for command center, for shift management. So you can think about what are the major puzzle pieces of the implementation of each of those products. So you can at least give you a starting point on your project planning with typical levels of effort. That probably assumes some baseline understanding of the Salesforce ecosystem. So if you're already a Salesforce customer, you have a leg up on that. But if you're brand new to the Salesforce Ohana, that would give you a starting point, and then you can adjust from there based on your your estimates of your levels of skill and things like that, and it would give you a good starting point to bounce against other folks in the Trailblazer community to adjust that for your specific scenario.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is the global data real time or batch or triggered based?
I was talking about the data surfaced in the Tableau data, or is it talking about the wellness data?
We could probably address both, actually. You want to start with Tableau?
Why don't you start with wellness?
Yeah. So the wellness data is real time. As a survey response comes in, the status that response is tied to updates the command center component so that you have a real-time or essentially real-time view of the status of employees and their wellness within a given location or broadly within your organization. So that allows you to be flexible and really depend on the data that's coming in to make quick decisions if needed.
Yeah, sorry, what was that, Christy?
Did you want to add anything to that, Xander?
Yeah, so in the Tableau dashboards visualizations, that data is updated daily. And that is the result of a lot of effort from our great partners on the Tableau side, who scoured many public sources, as part of bringing the trusted data into the solution, make sure you have your one-stop shop for really understanding what's the state of the situation. So those stats, I hate to even say it, but daily updates on positive test cases and unfortunately deaths, those are updated daily. And another thing that we've added in the July release was also public policy data. Brandon, you were talking about the spike and the recent spike, and I was just reading on the news this morning that Wisconsin is talking about extending their compliant or their mandatory mask policy. So part of the Tableau data is taking that policy data from public sources and surfacing that in the command center. So you can look at there and see all the policy changes by country, by state. So it gives you really that full view of the bigger picture from trusted data sources.
I think that picture is really important just from a functional point of view. Just being able to not only use the command center and wellness to assess how are my employees doing, how are they feeling, are they ready to get back to work, but also a view of if they are ready or even if they're not, is the community ready for people to be out, for there to be, and is that a decision that we want to make as an organization? So I think that juxtaposition is really vital. So I just wanted to highlight that. And then the other thing I would add is in a recent release, we also completed work to allow reporting on the employee object. So it is possible to build custom reports on that object, which includes that status, so that you can even go beyond what's available to you out of the box.
Yeah. I actually wanted to ask this question next, and it kind of flows really well. Is there anything new on the Tableau data side?
Yeah, I was going to jump in there and sort of continue what you were saying there, Brandolin, is so right now, if you wanted to pull together all of the data so you could, surface data insights without just trying to look at two different reports side by side, put them up on your monitor and try to look for the patterns visually between the two of them, you could do that right now. So the dashboards that are embedded in Command Center out of the box is up. They are up on public.tableau.com. So you could pull that data and you could extend it however way you wanted to. If you wanted to match that with your own private data, whether it be about your employees' wellness and their location and join those two things, or tie it with your supply chain or whatever other data you want to, that's something that you could do right now with some fairly heavy lifting. If you're a data geek, maybe that's worth the effort. But that's a lot of what we've heard from customers, that Salesforce, you're in a good position to help us to do that for us, so that not every customer has to DIY their data insights. So that's something that we're looking at. There's a lot of depth and complexity there in terms of how do you manage data lakes and privacy, and how do you even join the data. There's a lot of thinking that we're doing there. Nothing concrete to share yet, but it's definitely an area that we're looking at closely.
Yeah, that makes sense. This next question, I think, is a really good one. Can wellness be used beyond COVID or health status?
Yeah, and this is something that's on our roadmap, and something that we're thinking about a lot as we build all of this. And I'll even reference my flub at the beginning. We're all working from home, doing things differently, and that can lead to some confusion, errors. Basically, COVID has accelerated how the workplace is changing, and how that's affecting all of us. You can imagine wellness from a wellness and well-being perspective. COVID is interwoven. So sure, you might have a status where you're available to go back to work, but the stress of lockdowns, the stress of children at home, is all contributing to things that your employer may have benefits, resources that they're developing and investing funding in to help you with. And so as we think about wellness beyond COVID-19, we want to be able to provide tools to assess wellness across a broader set of dimensions, and really get the kind of data needed to help employees feel well and safe at work, no matter what challenges they're facing. So I know Xander and his team is thinking about how do we do a lot of what the Command Center and Wellness do in a crisis agnostic manner. And my team is thinking a lot about what is wellness that includes physical wellness, mental health and well-being, things that affect work-life balance that are more difficult in this changed environment that COVID is accelerating. And so I would say stay tuned for particularly wellness and what comes beyond the work that we're doing to help companies reopen. There's a lot more than opening offices that we really have to do, and we can provide really good technology for it to really help get back to a new normal, or to an old normal, or some kind of combination that may be better than what we had before if we have the right tools.
Yeah, the next normal.
Yeah.
Right. Xandra, this next question's for you. When is the next update of Command Center? Any insight into what we might expect?
Sure. So as we talked about, we are on monthly release cycles. So our next one's penciled in for mid to late October, and then we'll probably do one more before the end of the year, and then go beyond there. So the two general, not fully fleshed out themes that we know are important, and we're figuring out what do we do, is how to make the Command Center broader. So there's actually nothing that my team's done that's shipped a COVID specific feature here, but we know that customers are dealing with problems bigger than COVID. So what should that be? The other thing is making it smarter. So that really ties into the data part. How do we help you find the signals in the noise? How do we help you make sure that you're not missing anything because some policy changed, because some cohort of employees or students or parents of students had some situation happen? How can we help you see those things so that you can make sure that you're getting the value without having to do a lot of the work? But in the meantime, we're really focused on really nuts and bolts, blocking and tackling kind of things. There's a fair amount of fit and finish work that we're doing because of the urgency, which we released the first versions. There are just some usability and user experience things, which we're putting a bow on, nothing that would even really call out in release notes, but just making sure there's a great user experience out of the box. So it's easy to use, very little enablement required. And then more a meteor feature, which is if you were to look at the release notes for V2 and V3, there hasn't been a lot from my team because we're working on some things that are taking more than just 1 month to do. And the main problem space that we're addressing is picture customers who have thousands of locations worldwide, or university who has different pockets of locations in different campuses, and they have similarly complex org structures to manage those locations. So you might have a facilities manager or a shift manager focused on, responsible for one particular building. And then you have the head of HR or operations or real estate services who's overseeing everything. There are often a lot of people in the middle, and we want to make the command center useful for each individual. What is her or his view of their organization, and so that they can prioritize what to do faster. So I won't share too much about what that's going to look like, but it's really, really powerful and cool. The other thing is around the operations feed. In the demo, I showed how a flow could fit in there. We also want to round out flows so you can, for example, pause a flow from there and then resume it right from the operations feed without having to go to another UI to then resume the flow. So some work there to make sure flows is fully supported on the command center.
Yeah. This next question could really go for either of you or both of you. Is the contact tracing module based on a certain established methodology, or do you design your own?
It's manual contact tracing, so it's not automated. There's really nothing built in there. And I won't speak too much to it because there's really some depth there that I want to make sure that the contact tracing team, that they would be the experts on it. But the gist is that there are some guidelines saying if you were in close personal contact with these people for X amount of time, please let us know, and then we'll follow up with them. But ultimately, it's up to each customer to specify, to determine what policy makes sense for them. But my understanding is the defaults are based on CDC guidance and the latest information in terms of what level of exposure could present risk that should be followed up on.
Yeah, there are just so many things to think through, and things are constantly being updated. It's so nice that some of this is like thought out for you. I think that's probably.
Yeah, I mean, as certainly as we all know on this side of the camera, this is the beauty of the Salesforce platform, that we give you thoughtful defaults out of the box that you can get up and running. But as your needs change, as you try to put something into practice and you realize some things are working, some things aren't, so much of the Salesforce platform and the solutions that we offer on top of it are customizable down to a very low level of fidelity. So it's really, what's the problem that you're trying to solve, and where do you want to prioritize? And can almost guarantee there's a way to make it fit your exact needs.
And we're not doing that alone. Just to add on, there are partners who launched with us at GA in the App Exchange who are enabling things through the command center, like guest management that can screen guests and other functionalities. So there's a growing ecosystem of apps to help getting back to work, and with this broader vision that we're driving towards of just adapting to this new workplace.
This question's for you, Brandolin. Can employees take surveys on their phone?
Yes, so we get this question a lot. I would say it's probably the #1 question. Currently, through the out-of-the-box wellness experience, surveys can only be shared and responded to via email. It is on our roadmap, very near term, very high up, to be able to allow response via SMS. But there are ways to enable that today. You can work with your solution engineers to figure out what configuration works best for you, what application, what partners. So where the answer is, it's on the roadmap. We're getting there with an out-of-the-box experience, but there are certainly ways to get there today working with our partners within Salesforce. And I would say, just to piggyback onto what Xander's done and provide a glimpse into what we are prioritizing moving forward, just in the broadest sense, SMS is very high on our list over the next couple of releases, as well as the ability to have authentication tied to surveys so that employees can authenticate who they are, provide a bit more security. And we're doing fit and finish as well on the end product. So I think we've said this a few times, but feedback is always welcome through any channel that you have available to you if you can't reach out to us directly. And then finally, we want to provide just a real focus on the sustainability of the response rate that users might get. So currently, we're working on functionality that makes it clear who these surveys are coming from and other things that might affect the sort of seeming credibility of the survey. And so all of that's part of that fit and finish story, but I think a really important piece that I try to highlight separately. But that's in addition to that SMS, that's a little bit of what's coming down the pike for wellness in particular.
And just to clarify, Brandon, you can't open the email on your phone and click through the survey on your phone.
It is mobile responsive, and it's built on, as it's built on the surveys functionality, it's completely mobile responsive. Just the sort of bot experience that we might be getting more and more familiar with, where you can respond to the survey within SMS, is something that we're working on. It's a top priority on our roadmap.
I'm glad you mentioned the feedback again, though, because it's true, right? We really are always looking for that feedback from our customers. We appreciate it. And I was going to bring this up later, but I did want to remind everyone that there is a work.com community group that you can join as well if you haven't already, and definitely post anything that comes to mind there.
Yeah, I'll just say, I mean, my second favorite part of my job is talking to customers. My first favorite part of my job is shipping product that actually helps the customers. So if you want to talk to me, I have an open door policy with customers. Just email me, xmitman@salesforce.com with office hours in the subject, and we'll find a time.
Yes, and we're coming up on Dreamforce time too, which is when a lot of us would have actually met with customers in person, and we're missing out on that this year. So
don't remind me.
I know. It's all right, we do have a few more questions I want to put out there. Doeswork.com give you suggested actions to take based on insights that you get from surveys, data, etc.? If so, are they based on CDC, or can they surface state and local requirements as well? Do you get that granular?
So Anastasia is one of our PM colleagues who is also working on the trial part, but she comes from the Einstein analytics side and the artificial intelligence, machine learning, things like that, and she's definitely looking into these things. As you can imagine, it's a hard problem to solve, period, and especially a challenging problem to solve given the complexity of data and policies and all these things, but that's something that she's definitely actively looking at. I don't think we have anything to share on the roadmap yet, but I mean, that really ties back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of surfacing insights. We know that's something that we are in a good position to help customers with, but nothing specific to share on that right now.
Makes sense. Another question for you, Xander. How can we get a trial version to evaluate the features?
Sure, good question. So right now you can't sign up for it yourself. So contact your account executive if you are not a customer yet, and just go to salesforce.com, and we have about 1 billion lead capture forms and bots and things like that. And in short order, we could connect you with somebody who can set you up with that.
How do you handle concerns about privacy? So especially with asking employees providing wellness information to you. Any advice there?
No, it's a tricky question, and I always try not to dive too deep into it because I'm not a lawyer or a legal expert. But we have worked closely with our legal team internally and with outside consultants as we've built the wellness attestations. They are in compliance, and how we store the data is in compliance with HIPAA guidelines. Privacy and trust are a #1 value at Salesforce, so it's a key concern that we have built the platform around. But again, I try not to dive too deeply. But we store the data and try always to respect the privacy of employees and who can access that data in ways that are in compliance with those HIPAA guidelines that we really are, for the first time, at least on work.com and within my experience, kind of encountering on an everyday basis.
Yeah, and we've also worked closely with our ethical use team, which is sort of a complement to the legal part. Like beyond the letter of the law, what's the spirit of what we want to go after with trust? And there's a lot of checks and balances in terms of what ultimately ends up in the product. Also, if you look at the survey, there's really not a lot of detail that we capture in the data. We really just say, did the employee state that they were not available to work because they think they may have been exposed or tested positive? We don't distinguish between that in the out of the box survey in terms of what level of granularity we store about the user's feedback. So it's we've done a lot of work to make sure that that we maintain trust as our number one value.
Yeah. And I think this might be the last question. Could emergency management alerts be a use case for work.com in the future, especially with SMS support? So for example, Salesforce has a Go Center for critical communications with us, right, with employees on both large and small scale. Anything like that?
That's definitely something that we're looking at as part of, should Command Center go broader? Do we want to create a really full-fledged ERM, emergency resources management solution? There is one under the the name of the crowd, the public, the government. There's an ERM solution that also under the work.com umbrella. Do we join forces with that and go broader there? So we don't have a really crisp roadmap in that direction. If you have a problem, talk to us. Then if there are enough people who have those problems and we're in a good position to solve it, then it's pretty easy to put it on our roadmap. We always want to start with a customer problem and work backwards. Yeah. So let's keep that conversation going.
Yeah. Great reminder that we want that feedback. And
Absolutely.
I'll check again. I don't think we have any other questions, and we are kind of at time anyway, so I might go ahead and wrap up in just a minute, but I'm just going to take one last look. If you if you think of all of your questions after the session, don't worry, we will follow up with you, but make sure that you post it on the community. We're going to be looking out for that and can follow up in the next couple of days. But Xander and Brandolin, this was awesome. Thank you for answering all of the questions that we had today. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you everyone for joining us. We hope that you enjoyed it as much as we did. And if we didn't get to your question live, again, don't worry, we will follow up with you within the next few days. And remember that this webcast will be available on Salesforce Live website for later viewing. We're here all week too, so please come back and join us again for the next session, which tomorrow we actually have communities and B2C, B2B commerce and Commerce Cloud. Also, I want to remind everyone that we have a work.com group that you can join as well. And if you go to the Release Readiness community right now, Jacinta has actually posted links to the trails available for specifically work.com. So if you're interested in any of that, I encourage you to go to our community and check it out. And I can't wait to hear what you're using, what new features you're going to innovate with. So let's keep the conversation going in the Release Readiness community where all trailblazers meet to be release ready.